The phone rang at 2:13 in the damn morning. I didn't recognize the number, but I picked up anyway, groggy, half-blind, still sitting up in bed. "Is this Nathan Harlow?" a man asked. Voice calm, professional. "Yeah. Who's this?" "There's been a medical emergency. A woman listed you as her emergency contact. Carly Harlow. She gave birth tonight. She's stable, but in the ER." I sat straight up. My mouth dried out instantly. "Carly," I repeated. "Yes, sir. She's at Edge Hill Regional Medical. Room 213. She asked that someone be contacted in case of complications." I didn't say a word. I just sat there, frozen. Carly. My ex. The one who vanished 6 years ago while she was pregnant. The one everyone said was dead. I remembered the cops coming to my place back then with her purse, her phone, and a smashed rearview mirror from a car that was never found. Her parents had sobbed through the press conference. The case went cold within weeks. She was declared legally dead 18 months later. And now someone was telling me she just gave birth? I didn't ask questions. I didn't scream or yell. I just said, "Okay." Then I got dressed. Jeans, boots, gray hoodie. I didn't bother brushing my teeth. I grabbed my keys, wallet, and the old folder I never threw away, the one with her case file and the official missing person report. I kept it buried under a pile of tax stuff. Guess I always knew I'd need it again. The house was dead silent. Just the soft creak of the floorboards and the hum of the fridge. I locked up and walked straight to my truck like I had a mission. No hesitation. No panic. By the time I hit the interstate, the adrenaline had leveled out. My jaw was locked, both hands gripping the wheel like I was aiming at something. If this was real, I needed answers. If it was a trick, then someone picked the wrong man to screw with. I kept the speed steady and didn't touch the radio. Every mile was a punch to the gut. All I could see was her face, blurry and fading behind my headlights. All I could hear was that voice saying her name, like she hadn't disappeared without a trace. I drove through the night like a bullet aimed straight at room 213. I pulled into the Edge Hill Regional parking lot just before 5 a.m. The place had that eerie glow, cold white lights humming over half-empty spaces. The air smelled like rain and bleach. Inside, I went straight to the front desk. A bored nurse sat behind the glass, flipping through a chart. "I'm here to see Carly Harlow. Room 213. She looked up, blinked like she misheard me. "Who?" "Carly Harlow. She was admitted last night. Gave birth." The name clearly set something off in her brain. Her eyes narrowed. She typed something into the computer, frowned, then picked up a phone and mumbled into it. A minute later, she buzzed me through and told me to wait by the elevators. Another nurse showed up, mid-40s, tight ponytail, clearly running on her second or third shift. "You're the contact for Miss Dean?" she asked, checking a chart. "Carly," I said flat. "Her name's Carly Harlow." She blinked at me like I just said the wrong password, then forced a smile. "Right this way." We walked in silence. The hallway lights buzzed overhead like they were about to burn out. Room 213 was halfway down the east wing. The nurse knocked once, then opened the door and nodded me in. I stepped through and stopped cold. It was her, sitting up in bed, eyes sunken, hair shorter and duller, skin pale like she hadn't seen sun in months. Her arms looked too thin for her body, but it was Carly. Same mouth, same scar under her chin. Same damn girl who left without a word and vanished like smoke. She looked at me like she'd seen a ghost, but I was the one staring at the dead woman who wasn't. "You weren't supposed to come," she whispered. I didn't say a thing. I didn't move. She pulled the blanket tighter around herself, like it would shield her from what was coming. Her voice cracked as she kept talking. I didn't think they'd actually call you. It was a mistake. The nurse asked for a contact and I just..." She looked away. I stood there, arms at my sides, waiting, letting her squirm. "Look, it wasn't like I planned this. Everything got complicated. There wasn't supposed to be contact. I thought I could handle it alone. I really did." Still, I didn't speak. She started to shake. Her fingers fidgeted with the 4 line like she wanted to rip it out. You don't understand. I had to leave. You don't know what it was like. I couldn't stay. That's when the door creaked open behind me. A man stepped in, wearing navy scrubs, clipboard in hand, badge clipped to his chest. Dr. Blake. Same guy who filed the original missing person report when Carly disappeared. Same guy who told the cops she never came in for her prenatal appointment that day. He froze the second he saw me. Carly's eyes darted between us. Then she dropped her head, whispering, "This is my ex." His body stiffened. His hand gripped the clipboard too tight. I looked at him. Everything started falling into place. Carly disappeared pregnant. No trace, no body, no leads, no closure. Blake, the doctor she was seeing back then, the one who declared her a no-show, the one who told police there was no medical history to follow up on, the one who filed the damn report, and now he's standing in her hospital room like he belongs there. I didn't lunge. I didn't yell. I didn't ask a damn thing. I turned and walked straight past him. Didn't bother looking back. I drove home with both hands shaking on the wheel. Didn't stop for gas. Didn't speak a word. Didn't even turn the lights off when I walked through my front door. Just dropped my keys on the table, pulled out the old folder I kept buried under tax records, and flipped it open. Every damn paper I tried to forget. I hadn't touched this stuff in years. Not since the court finalized her death certificate. But now that I'd seen her, Rayal, breathing, I couldn't let it sit anymore. I pulled out my laptop, cracked my knuckles, and got to work. Started with public records. Didn't take long to find her. Carly Dean. Same birth date. Slight tweak to the middle name. A rental lease in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Registered her vehicle last year. Same make and model as the one the cops claimed was totaled in her accident. She didn't even try to bury it that deep. I dug into local marriage records. There it was, Carly Dean and Blake Thomas, married 5 years ago in Shelby County. That smug bastard had been playing doctor and husband while I was out here trying to move on from a ghost. I kept going. Blake's medical license had a history. 2 formal complaints, one in 19 and another in 22. Both for questionable billing and boundary violations with patients. Investigations opened, then shut. Each time right after large anonymous donations hit the hospital foundation. He was slippery, but not invisible. I ran his name through financial search tools I'd paid for back when I thought she might have been kidnapped. Traces of cash movements popped up, mostly clean until I filtered for flagged offshore activity. Then I saw it. An account in the Caymans, tied to a blind trust, partially funded by a joint account I hadn't touched since we opened it together 8 years ago. A savings plan. For the baby. It was supposed to freeze when she died. I'd filed the paperwork, sent the death cert, but the trust was never closed. Just renamed. And it had over 6 figures sitting in it. Money I didn't recognize. Money someone had kept flowing. I stood up from the desk and paced the kitchen, heart thumping in my ears. It wasn't just that she'd faked her death. She'd stolen from me, from us. I poured a glass of water and couldn't even drink it. My hands were shaking too bad. I dumped it in the sink and grabbed my old notebook instead. The one I used back when I still believed I could track her down myself. I flipped to a clean page. Wrote one name at the top. Carly Dean. Underneath. Married to Dr. Blake Thomas. Living in TN under alias. Offshore trust still active. Fraudulent death cert? Where's the child? I stared at the last line the longest. Where the hell was the kid? She was pregnant when she left. That baby should have been born 6 years ago. But she'd just given birth. At least that's what the call said. Unless that was a cover story. Unless that wasn't her first child. I pulled my hoodie back on and opened my laptop again. If Carly was alive, if Blake was involved, and if they'd been moving money all this time, then this wasn't just a runaway. It was a setup, and I was going to tear it down piece by piece. I didn't sleep that night, didn't bother trying. By 7 a.m., I had 2 names on speed dial. One was a forensic accountant out of Lexington. The other a private investigator I found through a friend who owed me. No cops. Not yet. I wasn't about to hand this off to someone who'd screw it up or let Carly vanish again. I told them both the basics. She'd faked her death, changed names, and had help. I gave them Blake's info, the fake marriage record, the trust account data, everything I'd pulled the night before. The accountant, Dorsey, started with the trust. He traced funds, backtracked the deposits. Within 2 days, he confirmed something I already felt in my gut. Someone had used a falsified death certificate to trigger a life insurance payout. A big one, issued under the name Carla Dean Harland. New last name, new first name, barely adjusted. Same date of birth, same social security number, until it magically deactivated 2 years ago. Classic shell job. Enough to fool the insurer if they weren't paying attention. And clearly they weren't. The payout? 250 grand. Sent to an account under Blake's name, marked as surviving spouse. That account? Linked directly to the same offshore trust Carly and I opened before she disappeared. They took my dead fiancé's life insurance, filed under a different name, then kept using the same financial shell I built for our kid. That's when I told the PI to focus on the boy. I hadn't seen him yet, didn't know if he existed, but I knew if Carly had carried full term when she left, that child would be 5, maybe 6 by now. The PI didn't take long. He called me from a parked car outside a school in a suburb just north of Nashville. Name's Jonah Blake, he said. Registered as Dr. Blake's biological son. Mom listed as Carla Dean. Kids 5. Enrolled in kindergarten at East Pines Elementary. Want photos? I didn't answer right away. He sent them anyway. I opened the message, and everything inside me stopped cold. There he was. Little tan coat, dark blue backpack, hands shoved in his pockets like he was already tired of school. He had her mouth, but he had my eyes. Same shade, same shape, same small frown I always wore when something didn't make sense. He was mine. No DNA test needed. I drove out that weekend, parked a block from the school and waited in my truck. When the bell rang, I watched him come out holding some art project, backpack bouncing behind him. He walked next to Carly. She looked thinner than at the hospital. Tired, but alert. She scanned the parking lot like she expected someone to be there. She didn't see me. I watched them walk hand in hand toward a gray SUV with plates registered to Blake. He wasn't with them. The boy paused before climbing in. He looked straight ahead, like something in the air felt wrong. He didn't spot me either. I stayed there after they drove off. Didn't follow. Didn't move. Just sat behind the wheel, staring at the spot he'd been standing. I had a son, and they stole him, but I wasn't storming in. Not yet. I drove straight from the school to a cafe with free Wi-Fi, ordered a black coffee, and opened my laptop. I didn't hesitate. I wasn't there to think anymore. I was there to move. First thing I did was draft a full report and send it anonymously to the state medical board. I attached every shred of evidence the forensic accountant had pulled: offshore accounts, the life insurance payout, connections to Blake's hospital foundation. I flagged suspicious donations tied to internal investigations that mysteriously vanished. Second, I filed a separate complaint through a third-party insurance audit firm I found through a legal forum. Not police, not federal, private and fast. I submitted a forensic review request of Carla Dean's, death certificate. I flagged the mismatched info, the suspicious name change, the recycled social security number. It wasn't just fraud. It was identity theft, medical deception, financial crime. They thought they buried it 6 feet under. I was digging it back up. Next, I made a call to Edge Hill Regional and asked about long-term recovery suites. Said I was recovering from back surgery, wanted something quiet, long-term. Paid a premium to avoid paperwork. They stuck me in room 215, 2 doors down from Carly. She didn't know I was there. She had no clue I was sleeping in the same hallway, listening to the nurses come in and out of her room, watching her routine, waiting for the first sign that things were unraveling. It didn't take long. By day 3, the calls started. She was on her cell every hour, pacing around her room in socks and a hospital gown, snapping, "What do you mean it's frozen?" And that account was verified. Check again. Then quieter, "No, I can't talk right now. I'm in recovery." Her tone got sharper every day. By day 4, I heard her crying through the wall. She slammed a drawer shut so hard the nurse came to check on her. She waved her off, said it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing, because Dr. Blake's license got suspended the next morning. I watched the news clip in my hospital bed with the volume on low. Pending a state investigation, Dr. Blake Thomas has been placed on indefinite leave following anonymous complaints and financial irregularities. The hospital has no comment at this time. I grinned, just a little. By the end of the week, Carly was calling disconnected numbers. I could hear the frustration in every voicemail she left. Call me back now. We need to fix this. Pause. Then lower. Shaking. Please. No one called back. I knew because I had all those numbers rerouted to a burner line I controlled. She didn't know how deep it went yet. She thought it was a bump, a freeze, a misunderstanding. But every piece I moved was fire under her bed. She couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't reach Blake, and definitely couldn't reach me. That's how you flip a con. You don't kick the door down. You shut off the oxygen inch by inch. And I wasn't done choking them out. By day 5, the entire facade started caving in. I knew it the second I heard Carly's voice echo through the hallway. Sharp, panicked, desperate. The kind of tone people use when they realize the fire's already halfway up the wall. Check again. She yelled at someone on the phone. You're telling me both accounts are frozen? That's impossible. It wasn't impossible. It was the plan. The accountant's updates were rolling and steady now. Both joint and personal accounts under Carla Dean were seized for investigation. One flagged by the insurance audit, the other frozen due to the medical board complaint linking Blake's income to fraudulent transfers. Every line of money they touched was locked tight. By noon, Carly's name hit national fraud watch lists. That meant her credit, her IDs, her medical coverage, everything was under review. She couldn't even charge lunch to her hospital account without it kicking back an error. And Blake? He was gone. Just gone. Didn't check in. Didn't call the hospital. His phone went straight to voicemail. The last digital ping from his number came from an airport parking lot in Charlotte, North Carolina. The media got hold of it next. Local surgeon under investigation for identity and insurance fraud. His photo plastered across the ticker. A man with a clean smile and dead eyes. I watched it from my bed in room 215, sipping black coffee, lights off, curtain half drawn. The hum of the fluorescent bulb mixed with the distant sound of Carly pacing next door. That was the sound of her losing control. The nurses whispered about her now. You could hear it in the hall, how she cried when the hospital tried to process her new ID and it came back invalid. How she snapped at a billing clerk for saying the insurance under Carla Dean was flagged as under federal review. She had no clue what was real anymore. I waited until midnight before making my next move. I slipped an envelope under her door. Plain manila. No name, no note. Inside, 2 things. The first, her real death certificate. The one signed 6 years ago by Dr. Blake himself, the same signature that now tied him directly to fraud. The date of death read, June 15th, 2019. The second, a photograph. Carly holding our newborn. The one she told everyone was gone. Her hair a mess, eyes wet, smile small and tired. I'd found the photo buried in the shared cloud backup she never wiped properly. Proof she'd been alive after the accident. Proof she'd taken him. Proof she'd lied about everything. I went back to bed after sliding it under her door. Didn't sleep, just waited. By 2 a.m., the phone on my nightstand started ringing. Her number. I let it buzz until it stopped. Then it buzzed again. And again. By morning, she was pounding on the wall between our rooms. Nathan, I know it's you. What did you do? Her voice cracked halfway through my name. I didn't answer. The nurse showed up 15 minutes later to calm her down. But she was already unraveling. She demanded to be discharged immediately. The staff told her she couldn't, not until her ID and insurance were verified. That's when she realized the truth. She didn't exist. Her legal identity, Carla Dean, was under investigation and frozen. Her real identity, Carly Harlow, was listed as deceased. She couldn't be processed under either name. No record, No status, no access. A ghost caught in a system that believed she was 6 years dead. She broke down in the hallway, shouting about mistakes and theft and lies. The nurses tried to calm her, but she kept grabbing at her arms like she wanted to rip the four out again. I watched through the crack of my door. Quiet, steady. Everything she built, every stolen dollar, every fake name, every lie was turning to dust right in front of her. She'd wanted to disappear. Now she finally had. The next morning, I drove straight to the courthouse. Didn't bother calling a lawyer. I already had everything I needed. Original birth certificates, mine and Carly's. Proof of the trust we'd set up together before she vanished. Records of her life insurance payout. Copies of the fake ID she used. Everything clean, time-stamped, documented. The whole paper trail. And one more thing. The official declaration of death, certified by the state, still valid. Carly Harlow was legally dead. That meant Jonah, my son, was legally unclaimed. I filed for emergency custody. They didn't even blink. The clerk scheduled a hearing for the following week. CPS had to get involved, but I was ready for that too. 2 days later, a social worker showed up at my place unannounced. A woman named Stacy, clipboard in hand, firm handshake. She asked questions, walked through my house, checked the fridge, peeked in the spare bedroom I'd already cleared out for a kid I hadn't even met yet. Then she sat down across from me and said, "DNA test's clean. You're the father." And I've read through the full file. We've got some real problems on the mother's end. I nodded once. "You're not gonna get any arguments here. I'll see you in court," she said. I showed up early that day. Wore a gray suit. No tie. Just clean, calm, steady. Courtroom B wasn't packed, but the front row held 2 reporters with notepads. One of them had already run a piece on Blake's suspension. Word was spreading. Carly showed up 10 minutes late. Gaunt, pale, shaking, still trying to wear that same fake name like it would save her. "Carla Dean," she said when asked to identify herself. Her voice barely made it across the room. The judge didn't even look at her. He just glanced at the paperwork. "This court recognizes the death certificate of Carly Marie Harlow, filed June 15, 2019. Declared deceased following a missing person investigation. Certificate signed by Blake Thomas. Document remains active. No legal reinstatement of identity has been requested or approved." The whole room went still. Carly's lips parted like she was about to say something, but nothing came out. Her knees buckled, and she dropped to the floor with a thud. Gasps echoed around us. Reporters stood up fast. Flashes went off. A bailiff moved in to help her, but she just sat there, head down, arms wrapped tight around her chest like she was trying to disappear again. I didn't flinch, didn't look over. I stayed facing forward, hands folded on the table in front of me. The judge cleared his throat. Due to the petitioner's legal identity, valid paternity documentation, and the deceased status of the respondent, full and immediate custody is awarded to Nathan Harlow. The child shall be placed in his care within 72 hours. All claims by the respondent are dismissed. I stood up, nodded once, and walked out. Never looked back. 3 days after the custody hearing, Blake got dragged off a plane in Miami. He tried to fly under a different name, Thomas Green, with a fake passport and a briefcase full of burner phones. Homeland Security flagged him at customs, held him overnight, then turned him over to state investigators. Charges stacked up fast: medical fraud, insurance fraud, identity tampering, conspiracy, and obstruction. Add passport fraud to the pile. His extradition hearing was over before it started. They flew him back in cuffs. The courtroom was packed for the trial. Press, families, old patients of his who'd followed the news. Some looked shocked, others just pissed off. People hate liars with lab coats. Carly showed up 3 days into testimony, looking like she hadn't slept since the custody hearing. She was thinner, hollowed out, still trying to wear makeup like it would fix something. She took the stand with her public defender at her side and tried to flip the whole story. "I faked my death," she said, "because I was in a controlling relationship. I didn't feel safe. I had to leave." She glanced at me as she said it. Her voice wavered just enough to make the room lean in. The prosecutor didn't flinch. He dropped a stack of records in front of her on cross. Bank transactions, flight receipts, rental agreements, photos of her smiling with Blake on beaches, copies of the fake marriage certificate. Then came the neighbors, 3 of them from the condo complex in Murfreesboro. All took the stand. All said she introduced Blake as her husband. All said she told them the father was long gone and didn't want the kid. None of it screamed abuse victim. All of it screamed scam. The jury didn't even look confused. They looked disgusted. My lawyer leaned over and whispered, "You're good. We've already won." I didn't smile. Not once. The judge made it official 2 days later. Due to overwhelming evidence of fraud, identity manipulation, and deception, he said, Carly Harlow, also known as Carla Dean, is hereby stripped of all legal parental rights. Her prior status as a deceased individual remains on record until and unless formally reversed, pending full investigation. Full and permanent custody is awarded to Nathan Harlow. He didn't even look up when he said it. Reporters were waiting outside. Microphones out. Cameras rolling. "Mr. Harlow, do you have a statement about your son?" I pushed through them without saying a word. Inside, Carly stayed seated long after the judge left the bench. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. The public defender whispered something in her ear, but she didn't move. She had no more cards to play. No home, no bank account, no job, license, or legal name. She couldn't get on a plane, open a savings account, or even sign a lease. Whatever story she told herself to justify what she did, whatever lie made it feel okay, it was gone now, wiped out with one ruling. As for Blake, his license was revoked the next morning. His mugshot hit the front page by noon. Hospitals issued press releases like wildfire. Every clinic he'd worked at scrambled to explain how they missed the red flags. He didn't fight it, took a plea. Last I heard, he was sitting in a holding cell waiting for sentencing. Might get 10 years. Maybe more. Didn't matter to me. What mattered was the boy, my son. When the bailiff handed me the final court papers, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like breathing for the first time in years. I brought him home on a Thursday afternoon. Jonah sat in the back seat, staring out the window like he didn't recognize the world anymore. I didn't push conversation, just turned the radio low and drove slow. When we pulled into my driveway, he didn't move at first. Just sat there with his little hands on his backpack straps. I opened his door and said, "Let's go inside, bud." He nodded once. That was it. We started slow. The first night, he didn't say more than 10 words. Ate 2 bites of grilled cheese, drank water, and curled up on the edge of the twin bed I'd set up for him in the spare room. He didn't cry, didn't ask for her. He just lay there, staring at the ceiling like he was waiting for someone to say it was all a mistake. The second day, he followed me into the kitchen while I made eggs. He didn't say anything until I handed him a plate. He looked up and asked, "Did I used to live with you?" I sat down across from him. "Not yet, but you were supposed to." He nodded like that made sense. Later that afternoon, we were sitting on the porch when he asked, "What happened before?" I didn't lie, but I kept it simple. "Your mom got scared," I said. "She made some bad choices, but none of that's your fault." He didn't ask anything else, just leaned against the armrest and watched the wind blow the leaves around. He was like me, quiet, sharp, always reading the room. The next week, a letter came in the mail. No return address, just my name scribbled on the front. Inside was a note in her handwriting, a full page. I didn't read it. I slid it back into the envelope and marked it return to sender. 2 days later, another letter showed up. This time, it had a drawing inside. A stick figure of a woman and a boy. A sad face. I didn't open that one at all. I tossed it in the trash and took the bin out early. She kept trying. I guess she thought if she hit the right nerve, I'd soften. But I didn't owe her that. Jonah never asked where the letters were going. I figured if he wanted to know, he'd ask. One day, I saw her again. I was parked outside his school, engine off, waiting for the bell. Kids were flooding out of the front doors when I spotted her across the street. hood up, hands in her coat, just watching. She didn't move toward the kids, didn't call his name, but she was too close. She had no business being there. I stepped out of the truck and locked eyes with her. That's all it took. She started walking off fast, head down. I called the school and let them know what I saw. They brought out security the next day, gave them her photo, told me they'd take it seriously. A week later, she tried again. That time, security caught her standing behind the cafeteria dumpsters. They escorted her off the property. She didn't come back after that. And I didn't feel rage. Not pity. Not sadness. Just peace. I stopped driving out to the bridge where she died. For years, I used to go there on the anniversary. Stand at the edge. Wonder what really happened. Wonder what I missed. I don't wonder anymore. That part of me's done. A few months later, someone sent me a blurry photo. Carly, standing outside a halfway house just south of Chattanooga. Different hair, different name, same dead stare. She was listed on the intake as Carla Henderson. No valid ID, no job, no bank account, no state records under her alias. She was legally stuck. Couldn't move forward, couldn't go back. Exactly where she put me for 6 years. People asked if I was angry. I told them no. That part was over. You can't stay mad at a ghost. And that's all she was now. Just a shadow walking around with no past, no future, no ground to stand on. Some things don't get fixed. Some people don't want to be saved. I didn't lose her. She made sure of that the day she vanished. What I lost was time. A childhood I should have been part of. A boy I should have known from day one. But now, I sit beside my son on a bench at Ridgeline Park while he eats a dripping popsicle and wipes his face on his sleeve. He's laughing about something that happened at school. A class pet got loose and chased the lunch lady. I don't even catch the full story. I just watch his face light up and nod along. He's happy. That's enough. I think about the night she called. That voice on the line. The room number. The second my brain stopped working and my body went into autopilot. I almost didn't answer. If I hadn't, everything would be different. That call wasn't a warning. It was an opening. Revenge didn't come with fire. Came with silence. And that was better. I don't hate her, but I don't forgive her either. She tried to disappear. Instead, I made her truly vanish.